Welcome to Tea with Honey. It's your girl HoneyDaVinci and I'm back with another video.
So congratulations are in order for Nicki Minaj and Doja Cat for receiving their first #1 on Billboard. So, you know, Say So and Savage remix were head to head. The Say So remix and Savage remix, they were head to head, and we were watching the women compete in a friendly competition for that #1 spot. So we know Megan Thee Stallion got Beyonce, Doja Cat got Nicki Minaj, and it was the two queens going head to head. You know what I'm saying? Because Nicki Minaj is the queen of rap, Beyonce the queen bee. So it was like anyone's game at this moment. And a lot of people thought that the Savage remix was going to go #1 because it was a viral sensation on TikTok and everywhere else. And also because it was Beyonce. But I think a lot of people fail to realize that the record got leaked prior to the release date. So obviously the hype and the momentum of the song coming out was taken away because people had already been listening to it for free on whoever exposed the record. That's not to discredit Nicki Minaj or Doja Cat, that's just stating the facts. Nonetheless, the record still came out a few days prior to Nicki Minaj and Doja Cat's record. Nicki Minaj and Doja Cat hit #1. And honestly, I feel like I'm glad that it was Nicki Minaj who got the #1. As much as I love Beyonce, Beyonce's had #1s. Beyonce has been in those shoes. And as much as I would have liked Megan to get that #1, Megan's time will come. You know what I mean? But I'm glad that Nicki Minaj got it because it's like, what the heck? Like, what does this girl have to do to get a #1 around here? It's like they're handing out #1s to any and everyone else. But when it comes to Nicki Minaj, it's like this girl has to freaking jump through hoops of fire, swim on a shark to the depths of the ocean to grab the trident and fight Medusa to get freaking back up to the land of the free to put it up there for freedom. For freedom. To freedom. You know what I mean? It's like, what does this girl have to do to get a #1? And I know that a lot of people just feel like, oh, Nicki Minaj this, Nicki Minaj that. But honestly, it's like, how can you really discredit Nicki Minaj? She's been holding down the rap game for 10 years by herself. People are like, oh, well, there was nobody. There was plenty of people who came.
People use that word competition loosely.
Okay.
I will say this. People use the word competition loosely. And sometimes I don't know what people mean when they say that. And also I think it's insulting to say I didn't have competition all these years ago because there's always been great female rappers in the industry. And it's not right to say that.
Okay.
Let me tell you something. Having a big push from a label does not make you great. And to me doesn't mean that you're my competition or you're not my competition.
They just weren't good enough. They just weren't. They gave Iggy Azalea #1. They were trying to push Iggy Azalea over Nicki Minaj. Literally. There were plenty of women who came and who were present in the rap game when Nicki Minaj was around. The only one who stuck was Cardi B because Cardi B had the relatability. You know, she was the ghetto girl from the Bronx with the accent and the chipped tooth or whatever you want to call it, the messed up teeth. And people loved her because she was funny and charismatic and all that. But what does that have to do with talent? Bars. Rap isn't about being relatable in the sense of a personality or a character outside of the rap. Rap has to do with bars, talent, skill, which we know Nicki Minaj has. Nicki Minaj has been on the biggest records with the biggest artists in the world, Jay-Z and Kanye West, and out-rapped both of them. She's out-rapped Drake many occasions. You know what I mean? And she's been on records with Drake and all types of people and never got a #1. It's insane. So I wanted to take a deep look into why it took Nicki Minaj 10 years to get a #1. And I really think it has a lot to do with Nicki Minaj pissing off a lot of people in high places. Because as we know, she's definitely been blackballed on the radio stations. DJ Envy already confirmed that he was blackballing Nicki Minaj. And we know that the Breakfast Club and radio stations and DJs in general, they will band together and not play your music.
Listen, you know I got love for you,
No,
Nicki.
she didn't. Shut up.
Nicki, I got mad love for you. I want to tell you something.
Really?
I'm telling you in front of the world. DJ Envy is the only DJ blackballing you.
Wait,
Okay?
play the beginning of that again, because I
fact.
feel like she said something Envy. It sounded like she shouted him out as a blackball. Envy, see?
Yeah.
She said every
Nicki,
week.
I'm like,
Nicki.
freestyle Envy.
Nikki, I'm not even joking with you. Envy, say what you said off the air.
I said, I thought I was the only one that didn't play her record.
That's
I
right.
mean, I think every other DJ is playing her record, but
That's a
Envy,
shame.
would
Y'all
say
both from Queens.
that is whack,
they
Envy.
squashed out their beef. It wasn't whack. She went at something. She went at DJs.
The fact that Nicki Minaj had number ones in every other country, but not America, how is that even possible? You got number ones in every other country. Every other country. Any other place. Any other place she has number ones, but not America. It doesn't make any sense. And I feel like, yeah, a lot of it has to do with her, you know, rubbing people the wrong way. But as we know, when Nicki Minaj was coming up in the rap game, it's not like how it was now. You know what I mean? The way things are now is totally different. Back then, a woman artist wasn't even sought after. Because they cost too much. It took too much to pay for makeup artists and pay for these fancy clothes and all these things and the hair and all that. Women were considered too expensive. That's why girl groups disbanded. You know what I mean? This industry is all about the money and the revenue. And I feel like we already know Nicki Minaj has spoke out about the Grammys. Because everybody wants to put it in Nicki Minaj's face that she hasn't had a Grammy. But Nicki Minaj has spoken out about her issues with the producer of the Grammys, Ken. And so we know that she's had these issues with the Grammys. And the same guy that was blackballing, Nicki Minaj was blackballing Ariana Grande. And Ariana Grande spoke out about that.
On stage, they came into my dressing room and said, "We don't think you should perform. We don't want you to perform anymore. This makes no sense." And there was no one there that even spoke up for me. Like, they didn't care to explain it. Nobody on either side spoke.
Yeah.
And this is after I had just done a bunch of commercials with LL Cool J to promote the Grammys. After I did everything they asked, and I said, no, I'm going to perform, of course. And then when the performance came out and it received backlash from the Catholic Church,
Yeah.
Ken Ehrlich reached out to my then management and said, "Can you please tell Nicki to stop speaking about it? It's my brand. I have to explain myself. I'm the one getting backlash." And I didn't understand the power that that man had to start to completely blackball me for the rest of my career. But that's exactly what happened. So he basically told me, you go out there or else. And when I went out there, because now all of my fans are expecting a performance, I'm not going to just not perform. And I just did all this to promote your show and to get viewers.
Right.
So I went out there and he blackballed me for the rest of my career. And he then made me feel afraid to speak on it, because thinking, well, if you do ever want to get a Grammy, you better not speak about it. Now, being that I'm at the place now that I don't give a fuck,
Right.
because I am a legend and I'm gonna die an icon regardless.
Talk your shit.
I can now let everyone know that the reason why a song like Monster or what you name it doesn't have a Grammy, that's why. It's because a little black girl thought that she could go against this powerful white man and say, no, I'm gonna perform. You're not making any sense. I promoted the fuck out of this show for you, and this makes no sense.
Yeah.
Because of that little backlash, he told me I should have basically lied and said the Grammys didn't know what I was gonna perform, which made no sense. Nobody would have believed that anyway.
You know what I mean? So we know that these issues have happened. And to add a fact on a fact, the Grammy CEO is actually suing the Grammys.
I was so shocked when I got there of the level of sexism and corruption that I found at the Recording Academy, a public not-for-profit that is there for the artists to represent them in this community, to do service.
I just want to be clear. You're saying it is rigged.
It is rigged.
And is it because of the influence of people who have power? It's
because of the influence of a few people with power that insist on this system.
And is exposing them for being frauds and for being biased and for artists being able to pay their way on the Grammys, which I don't understand why anyone took the Grammys that serious in the first place. I don't know why we as people of color put these biased platforms on a pedestal, and you know, why we put these platforms that aren't even being run by people who look like us, who understands our music, our culture. We're allowing them to make the decision on what we choose to be considered great. When we have all these millionaires who are making all this money off of music and who knows the music industry firsthand, who can just literally make a platform. Go do what Tyler Perry did and buy a freaking stadium and make your own Grammys. Make your own nominations. Like, do it. Do it. Somebody needs to do it, because we see Tyler Perry, he done bought a studio so big, and it's just such a phenomenal moment for black culture. I would love to freaking support, you know, a black platform that's actually ran and owned by black people who, you know, put out and support and celebrate black influences and music in a structure kind of like how the Grammys are, so that they can get it right. The only time the Grammys gets it right is when we put our foot on their neck and we stop supporting and their views drop. That's the only time they get it right. And even when they get it right, they still get it wrong. So then, but there's also been rumblings in the industry that Nicki Minaj was also being blackballed for the situation with Miley Cyrus. As we know, Nicki Minaj was not nominated for a VMA award for Anaconda. Meanwhile, Anaconda was the biggest video, biggest record of that time. Like, it got streamed so many times. People watched that video so many times. It was incredible. Like, the amount of attention that video got, that record got. And it was not nominated for an award. So Nicki spoke out about it. And she spoke out about how brown women and women with voluptuous bodies are looked over, whereas women who are skinny and white, they get the gratification, even if they're being the same type of sexual but just without the curves. They get acknowledgement and they get praised and told that they're being fearless. But then when a woman of color does it, it's being, you know, a hoe. It's being promiscuous. It's all these negative innuendos attached to it. So when she spoke out, Taylor Swift was basically kind of like a hit dog, because the shoe fit. She was nominated and the shoe fit, so she felt some type of way. And so Taylor Swift assumed that Nicki Minaj was talking about her and was basically posted a tweet acknowledging Nicki Minaj, like, girl, I didn't do nothing to you for you to be talking about me. And then Nicki Minaj was like, who said I was talking to you? Then Miley Cyrus goes on an interview, and we already know Miley Cyrus has done very raunchy, scanty kind of outfit, kind of bare naked behind, swinging on a wrecking ball videos. You know what I mean? So the shoe fit her as well. And so she literally had an interview and just straight and blatantly disrespected Nicki Minaj, was talking all about Nicki Minaj and talking about Nicki Minaj's relationship, and just basically was saying negative things about Nicki Minaj for absolutely no reason. And basically it was kind of like, you know how when we be like, Black Lives Matter, and then it's always that one person who's usually not black that be like, all lives matter. That's what basically Miley Cyrus was doing. She was basically all lives mattering this situation with Nicki Minaj, talking about us not being represented in certain avenues, whereas women of other colors will be praised by doing the exact same thing. You know, so she was basically like downplaying the situation and trying to make it seem like it wasn't a situation of color, which we all know if it wasn't a situation of color, then why didn't her video get picked up? It was the #1 video. Why did Kanye have to get on stage and let y'all know that the award should have went to Beyonce? If it's not about color. Single Ladies was the #1 video in the world. But Taylor got the award? Let's be clear. And then it's like Miley Cyrus is like, no, we're going to just pretend like nothing's going on so that we can make it seem like it's just the blacks over here complaining again. So then that's when Nicki Minaj, they were on the award show, and Miley Cyrus was giving her an award. She was presenting her on the mic like, Nicki Minaj. And so when Nicki Minaj came out, she went off. That's when we had the Miley What's Good situation.
And now, back to this bitch that had a lot to say about me the other day in the press. Miley, what's good?
And from what I'm hearing and the rumblings in the industry is that after that, Birdman was contacted by Miley Cyrus's father and was told that Nicki Minaj better tell, or the words were specifically, tell that N-word B to apologize to my daughter.
I wasn't told that I couldn't say this, so I'm going to say it. The reason Nicki Minaj is being blackballed right now is because of Miley Cyrus. Y'all remember how going on MTV Awards and threatening Miley or, you know, bucking on Miley? Well, Miley Cyrus' father is a very powerful man in the industry. And if you look up her family, you know her background, her history, y'all know that she's connected to some powerful people. Well, when Nicki Minaj did that to Miley Cyrus at the award show, they gave her father called Baby, as I'm told. Birdman, whatever y'all call him, I still call him Baby. They called him up and they told him, a white man, listen, you better tell that N-word, B-word, that she better publicly apologize to my daughter. And I'm sure that Birdman gave Nicki that message, from what I'm told. And Nicki refused to apologize. She said, I'm not going to apologize. And that man is bigger than Birdman. That man got more money than Birdman. And for him to call her N-word, B-word, this man is much more powerful than Birdman. And he told, yo, you better tell that N-word, B-word, she better apologize. And Nicki felt like she wasn't apologizing. And as we see, Nicki never apologized. And this is the reason why Nicki Minaj is blackballed. That's it. It ain't no secret. I don't know if it was supposed to be a secret, but I wasn't told that I couldn't say nothing. So there you have it. Nicki Minaj is blackballed because her stunt on Miley Cyrus. You're not just going to go up in a white people show and disrespect the white people's golden child and think that you're going to run around this industry that they control. No, baby girl. This is probably what's happening with your boyfriend. They probably doing everything they can to destroy you. They probably found out this dude was a sex offender or whatever, and they put that word out. And now they effing with you.
And as we know, Miley Cyrus's father is very powerful in the industry. Like, the same way everyone was saying how they didn't want to support Take My Horse to the Old Town Road. You know how that song wasn't getting any type of support and they took it off of the country billboards. And then as soon as Miley Cyrus's dad was like, nah, we gonna rock with this song, Billy Ray Cyrus, as soon as he said that it was cool, they put that junk right back on there. You get what I mean? Because he has power in the industry. He's very rich, very famous, been very rich for a very long time. And he's a white country singer. Like, this dude got pulled. So, rumblings in the industry are saying that he basically pulled the plug on Nicki Minaj and was like, nope, you don't want to apologize to my daughter? You're done. And so I think that's why it really took Nicki Minaj 10 years. And obviously she's pissed off a whole lot of other people too. Because we know Nicki Minaj, she's not the nicest person in the world. But does she have to be? Like, let's be real. Because she doesn't actually do anything besides just not push other people. And a lot of people were like, oh, she doesn't broadcast other women. She has to broadcast other women on her platform. Does she really have to do that for you to support her and her talent? For you to support her and her talent, she has to say, oh, by the way, look over there at that girl over there. She has to do that for you to look at her talent? Does she even know them to be talking about them? With all the things that all the obstacles that she's been through, she has to then stop and look back at someone else. She's already opening doors for black women as it is, by her position, by her holding down the game for 10 years, and becoming the first crossover black woman in the rap field. No one else has done that. She's already opening all these freaking doors. Walk through them. It's just like this stigma when it comes to black women, where in order for us to be praised or acknowledged for our talent, we have to literally go through the most. And I think that has a lot to do with why it took 10 years for Nicki Minaj to get a #1 on Billboard, while having a #1 on every other Billboard in every other country in the world. Now that she has this #1, she literally has a #1 in every country in the world. She's the first person to do it. It's like America was hating or some junk. Like, no, we're not going to give her a #1 because then she's going to be the first person to have a #1 in every country in the world. Like, it makes absolutely no sense. Absolutely no sense. So you mean to tell me every other place in the world was streaming this music and giving her all these #1s, but America just wasn't? Like, let's be real. Let's be real. It was definitely an agenda, and I think that her being blackballed by the radio station, her being blackballed by the Grammys, and her being blackballed by Miley Cyrus and all his elite friends has a lot to do with the fact that she was not able to get that #1 sooner. And now that they are trying to push Doja Cat over Megan, I feel like they were just like, you know what, this competition is going on between Beyonce and Megan, which we know Beyonce is more vocal than Nicki Minaj on political issues, and she's more vocal on black issues, and she's more uplifting and charities than Nicki Minaj, even though Nicki Minaj is very charitable herself. Beyonce is much more, her and her husband, who is a connection between her, where there's one, there's the other. They're much more vocal in the issues within the black community. They're much more, like with Jay-Z and the whole situation with the NFL and the Colin Kaepernick situation, and them working on that and doing all that work in the industry. They didn't want Beyonce to go #1. And they didn't want Nicki Minaj, but they were like, hey, we're going to choose one. We're going to choose the one that's not speaking on political issues like that, which is Nicki Minaj. So they put her up there. You know, and plus, they wanted Doja Cat to go #1 over Megan Thee Stallion anyways, because Doja Cat fits the image better. She's ambiguous. She doesn't really look black. She doesn't really look white. She doesn't really look Spanish. She looks a mixture of all things, just like Cardi B. So that's the image that the industry wants to portray right now. So people who are of an ambiguous nature are obviously going to get pushed more. You know what I mean? Did I like the Say So song? Yes, it was a great song. First and foremost, great song. Absolutely great song. Love the song. I love Savage Remix too. But it's just like, you know, things were going on. How did Beyonce's music get leaked? Think about that. Beyonce. Who leaked Beyonce's music? Who was bold enough to leak Beyonce's music? You know what I mean? And I think it has a lot to do with some behind the scenes strings getting pulled, you know? So they're trying to get rid of, the same way they're trying to get rid of Nicki Minaj, they're definitely trying to get rid of Beyonce. They're trying to compare Beyonce to people who aren't even singers, okay? So yeah, so that's many of the reasons why I feel like Nicki Minaj hasn't gotten a #1 in 10 years, and this is her first time getting her #1. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.